Welcome to the Celtic Way Morning Briefing Live. I'm Tony Haggerty, and today, Friday the 14th of January, I'm delighted to be joined by Sean Martin and Alison McConnell, Haggerty10 on the Twitter handle, at Sean Martin TCW. Guys, how are we? And if you want to subscribe, incidentally, you can subscribe. If you hit the subscribe button, you will get a free month of content, and you'll see cracking videos like this, great columns from Alison, Sean's depth chat and all that kind of stuff, and the occasional big interview from my good self. Here we go. Yesterday was good fun, Sean. Ange came out swinging a wee bit, did he not? The Hibs preview, and had a lot to say. It's quite interesting.
Aye, he spent a lot of the Hibs preview talking about transfer rumours, didn't he? I think the agents were on the firing line a wee bit, but it's his prerogative, isn't it? I mean, it must be annoying if it's constant speculation with no foundation. I mean, I think there's a difference between, like, scouting kind of options that might fit the bill and all that, and actively trying to say that people are actually going to Celtic, and I think that the latter is what he was taking aim at. But I mean, that's his prerogative. I was more interested in what he was saying about the actual football that's coming up, but to each their own.
Lies and fabrications, he called it, Alison. There you go. You can't get any more clearer than that, can you?
Yeah, indeed. It's not uncommon, I don't think, at this time of year for managers to just eventually get to a point of being exhausted and exasperated by the constant linking of players. And dare I say it, the same might apply to some of us journalists who also find ourselves fairly weary of trying to check every name that comes up at some points. But yeah, it's a circus, let's be honest, when it gets to this stage. And yeah, there's lots of sharks that swim in these waters when it comes to trying to decipher what the truth is at times. And I think at some points we all find ourselves a bit frazzled by it.
It was quite emphatic though, Sean, wasn't he?
Aye, I mean, he always is. You know no many other ways since he got here. Nah, I'm not really surprised about it.
That's a couple of more quotes to add to the next kind of 6 months.
Aye.
Of course.
There's a book at the end of this, I think.
Moving on to the Hibs game Monday night, full house crowd at Celtic Park. Everybody looking forward to it. As I kept saying every day, is it Monday yet? Is it Monday yet? Is it Monday yet? We're all like kids waiting on the football coming back. Couple of things. Jota's returned to training, but he said he would be maybe a couple of weeks. Kyogo, still a doubt, Sean. We kind of knew that anyway, didn't we? Or we were kind of suspecting that. I reckon that was the reason for bringing Maeda in so early, that he might sort of replace him up top. That you reckon that's what he'll go with?
I think that's probably what he'll go with. I have said a couple of times that I think Maeda, the fact that he can play across the front line's a benefit, but I do think that it's almost an ideal kind of rotation piece with Kyogo through the middle, try to replicate what he brings. I think Abada's done that well, but obviously Maeda does play up front as well. I think we'll come to do our predicted lineups for over the weekend and stuff. The actual in-depth article about why we're
tell everybody, Sean. Don't tell everybody.
But no, I definitely think it's. I think it's Maeda up front for me, and I'd imagine, given what you just says about Jota, if he doesn't risk him, which I don't think he will, given he's just back, then I think even a front three of Forrest, Abada and Maeda, to me, that's quite a strong front three, and it's also a front three that can interchange. You don't need to keep Maeda through the middle. You don't need to keep Abada out wide. You can mix it up as the game goes on and stuff. So I think it's good to have those options.
Alison, would you agree with that?
Yep, I would agree with that. I don't think there'll be any risks. I don't think you'll see Jota, certainly not in the starting lineup on Monday, until he's fully fit. And the same with Kyogo. I think, given now what you're about to walk into, it's going to be every bit as fraught as what December was, but over the course of 2 months, I think it will take its toll on any squad. And I think it would be remiss to play anyone if you had doubts over their fitness, and then what you're left with is maybe taking them out for the next 6 or 7 weeks. So I think, there'll be an element of common sense applied to it. I'm sure there'll be consultation with the physios and the sports science department, as well as the players themselves, and just I think especially the nature of a hamstring injury, if you come back prematurely, you can end up with a much more serious complaint. So I think it makes sense for a tentative return. And I think now, when you look at the players that have come in, if you look at the pool that is available, there is depth there. There are options there. The over-reliance on that middle three that we saw in the first half of the season can be tweaked a little bit. And I understand now you're bringing players in to a squad who are going to be thrown straight into the mix, and they might need a bit of time to bed in. But when you look at personnel and you look at numbers, there is scope for some depth now.
Lanky comes in, 67, says, I think Giakoumakis will start on Monday. Controversial, Sean. Do you think Giakoumakis will start on Monday?
I don't know if he's ready. First and foremost, I don't know if he's ready, but no, I don't necessarily think he would anyway. He's probably due a chance, I suppose you could argue, but no, I'd rather you go kind of like for like, or as close to that as possible as Kyogo, to keep the kind of the system and the way that they want to play as close to what his ideal system is as possible. I think you've also, just to touch on what Alison was saying there about the pool of players available, remember there's now 5 subs as well, which I think should benefit Celtic arguably more than most other teams. Now that they've added the additional depth to the squad, 5 subs should alleviate a wee bit, at least theoretically, it should alleviate a wee bit of the stress of the next couple of months in the fixture list.
Alison, do you see Giakoumakis fixing on Monday?
If he's fit, I think he may feature off the bench. I don't see him starting. I've been wrong on these occasions before. Has been known. But I tend to agree with Sean. I think it will be Maeda who comes straight in. And perhaps there's an option to change things from the bench.
You must have upset Frank this week, Sean. Show me a strong front three if the likes of Abada and Forrest are completely up for it, particularly with James and Abada's overall form's been erratic. You said your favourite front three would be Forrest, Abada and Maeda.
Aye, for Monday, not in general.
For Monday, for Monday, that's, I was making that abundantly clear.
Frank's right honourable Mr. Brennan. I mean, it's fair enough. Abada, despite his really good underlying statistics and stuff, he has been erratic. We've all said that before. Forrest, I don't think that's really fair for Forrest because he's not played enough to be erratic yet. So I'd wait until he's actually had a run in the team again before that was levelled at him. But
David Bradley comes in and says he likes Abada through the middle. Well, Abada did quite well against St Johnstone through the middle, didn't he? So you might see, because you've said before, Sean, that Maeda can play anywhere in the front three, can't he?
He can play off the left and through the middle. So as I say, even if he starts Maeda through the middle, Abada on the right and Forrest on the left, literally all three of them could play in a different position as the game goes on, depending how it's going. It's quite an interchangeable front three if it is those that he goes for.
It's quite a good front three to have, Alison, with that interchangeability, isn't it? Rotate them,
It offers you a versatility, I think. I think in games, particularly where it might be of interest, is the kind of games that you've seen Celtic struggle with this season. I'm thinking of St Mirren here, Dundee United, Livingston, teams that are camped in. I just wonder if being able to mix it a bit between the front three might open up the kind of space and manipulate a bit of space where Celtic have toiled to do that in some of those really stuffy games where they've dropped points and where it has, I think, been a concern for them. So I think maybe if you've got pace and you've got game intelligence and positional intelligence to maybe move and try and manipulate minimum amount of space for best return, then I think that can work in Celtic's favour.
Now, Sean, you first flagged up the midfielder. Does Rio Hatate, does she get a game on Monday night? Does she play in your midfield or what?
So you can give us a wee rendition of that again then?
Oh, yeah, you want a wee bit of Rio Hatate. Check it out. It's a song called Ritmo della Noche, but it's right for the Rio Hatate song, in my opinion.
I think he will start. I want to see him start because obviously I've been beating the drum for him for a while now, but I would like to see him start. I think given, I mean, you could argue it's harsh on Nir Bitton, what I'm about to say, because he seems to be the obvious one to drop out. I think you sit Callum McGregor as the deepest midfielder. I think it just, again, Beaton has been good, but I think McGregor is the deepest midfielder. Everything runs a lot faster, a lot quicker. It gives you what Beaton gives you, but also gives you a wee bit more as well, I would argue, which opens up who replaces Turnbull, and I think that should be Hatate. I would imagine Ideguchi will probably be the only one of the kind of the J League 3 that joined in end of December and start of January to miss out from the starting lineup for me on Monday.
Alison, do you agree with that? Do you think Hatate comes in for Turnbull? That's certainly my thinking as well.
Yeah, I think it's a definite consideration. I think I'd be surprised if he didn't feature. I think the choice is harder to make if everyone's fully fit. He might not have gone straight in, but I think when you know that you've got Turnbull out, I think it's a no-brainer really to put him in. I just wonder, he might be slightly wary of making too many changes to a favoured first 11 and too many debutants in a game now. I think you have to remember where Celtic are now in terms of their league position, and the fact that, you know, it really has to be all systems go in terms of not dropping any more points. So I think he might be wary of experimenting too much and changing things too much. But those are the two that I would expect to come in now.
Sean, are you any concerns about the Japanese players' fitness, bearing in mind they've come from a full Japanese league season?
I can see why, because obviously, as I said to you yesterday, that essentially if they're fit for the rest of this season, then that's a season and a half they'll have played, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
That said, Maida's last game was the 4th of December, so he's been off for a while. It's not like he's coming out having played, just finished last week. So in that sense, I don't think it's that big a concern at this moment. But obviously going forward, knowing that they've just finished a full season and they've got half a season to come in and contribute towards for Celtic, then I think they do need to be monitored and managed. But I'm sure the club will do that with the sports scientists and the physios and stuff.
Can they cope, Alison? Do you think players can cope? You think it's a mental thing? If you tell players they're tired, they'll feel tired. Whereas if you say you're ready to go, they'll be ready to go.
Probably. I think when you come to a new club, you're probably itching to play. I think you're probably desperate to go and make an impression, to come in, to bed in, to get a taste of it, to get a feel of it. I'm sure these guys will get a warm welcome on Monday night when they run out. I'm sure. I don't think you would turn up at a new club and have that baggage of, I feel tired. What I think you do have to be wary of is, and you've maybe seen it with Kyogo, is picking up niggling injuries and not shaking them off quite as easily if you've had a real run of games. And if you think of Kyogo, he's played a tremendous amount of games because he came in and just picked up where he left off. He's not had a decent break, and it's maybe reflected in the fact that he picked up the kind of injuries that he did in December. Possibly not. It's maybe, it might not be tied in, but I think you used to see it quite often in World Cup campaigns or European Championships, that when you would get to the November, the December of the subsequent season, that player, there'd be a rise in the number of injuries that you were picking up just because players' bodies didn't have the opportunity to recuperate as they might. So in terms of the players, I think they'll be desperate to play. I think you go to a new club, they were all keen to get to Celtic, they all wanted to move to Glasgow. I think they'll be desperate to go in and make an impression. It's just about managing it sensibly while knowing the volume of games that they've played over the last year.
The one thing that the Kyogo experience tells you, Sean, is that Ange will now be mindful of that with those Japanese players coming in, won't he? And he will manage them sensibly. You would have thought. And if they are feeling niggles, then he probably won't risk them.
Potentially, I suppose that depends on the condition of the other players, because you see, and also the game that it's for, because you saw with the cup final, Ange's comments about Kyogo basically sneaking onto the pitch if it came to it and stuff. But I think a lot of that was maybe tongue in cheek, because there are consultations within the club, obviously with the sports science department and the physios as well as the player themselves, and it's not just as simple as saying to the player, "Oh, do you want to play?" Is it like it used to be? But nonetheless, that does still come into it to a certain extent, asking the player himself how he's feeling. But that all need to play into it as the season progresses, especially, but not exclusively, to the three Japanese boys that have come in January.
Now, Alison, you touched upon it there. It's a must-win. All the games now for Celtic are must-win games, aren't they, basically?
Yep, I think this isn't a new conversation. I think when it went to 4 points, it was a comment that prefaced every league game. I think now that falling further behind. I think it almost becomes critical stage. I think you just can't afford to fall further behind psychologically as much as anything else. I think it needs to be a consistent run of form, and I know that people want both. You want to see a strong performance. You want to see the kind of football that Ange Postecoglou has spoken about, and you want to see it coming with 3 points. But I think the be-all and end-all for Celtic in any of these games is ensuring there are no slip-ups. It's about points over anything, and anything that comes with it is a bonus.
Greg Taylor was talking yesterday to the media as well, Sean, and he said that it's the business end of the season and Celtic will do their talking on the park. So he wasn't making any big flash comments or statements, but he was just saying there seems a kind of steely determination to hunt this 6 points down and get back into it, as they say.
I think that's a reflection of the manager's attitude as well. I would argue that's the kind of thing that he would be saying as well, about taking it one game at a time and doing it that way. So it's not really a surprise to see Taylor. I mean, Taylor does the press quite often. He's one of the ones that both.
And you like him, Sean, don't you? You like Greg Taylor, Sean.
Good Inverclyde boy. But,
one of the ones who doesn't say no when he's asked.
One of the ones that doesn't say no, Alison. That's it. And he's also. I mean, he is. He's obviously grown into a more responsible role within the squad as well. I think you see that on the pitch as well. If you watch him a wee bit closer, he is one of the ones that talks quite a bit and full of pointing and stuff like that as much as anything else. But no, I'm not surprised that that's the kind of thing that he was saying, because I think that is the message that you'll get quite often from most of the players that do the media in the coming weeks and months.
Alison, I was I mean, we have spoken about the points differential being at its absolute maximum. What are you expecting now from Celtic? You expecting a bit of a relentless charge from now till May to see where it takes them?
I think that will be the ambition. I think the philosophy will be to take it game by game, but to go on a winning run of form. To be fair, I'm not sure it changes in the complexion of things too much. I think at Celtic you're expected to win every game. I don't think you can afford to lose too many games regardless of level of competition or where you are. So, but just the fact that there is a gap now, I think you would want to be. I think it'll be broken down into blocks. I think the first block will be, let's get through to the game against Rangers on a winning run of form, and then you go into that game, and let's be honest, that game, it won't be said publicly, but that game can really define what happens in the latter half of the season, because it's almost the old proverbial 6-pointer, isn't it? I think if it could be a real swing either way. But if Celtic were to come out of that having won the game, then all of a sudden you think the momentum and the impetus is all then with the chasing team, I think, and I think psychology then starts to really play a part.
Yeah. Sean, I take Alison's point on board there as well. Yep, I mean that's a fair shout, isn't it? That Celtic can go on a winning run, but I think they're still, you'll be about 17 games domestically unbeaten.
Well, this is the thing. It's almost, as much as the winter break came at a good time in the sense that, I mean, I've already said to you about the fan aspect of it. It just made sense from that perspective. But as much as anything else, in terms of the injuries Celtic had, it made sense. And the only way that it didn't make sense is the fact that Celtic were the team in the midst of this big unbeaten run. So a big question will be, can they just pick up exactly where they left off in terms of extending that, not spoiling I know they had the St Mirren result and stuff, but in terms of actually not losing and winning the majority of those games, can they just pick up and continue where they were left off? So.
Well, here's two positive comments to end the broadcast on. Peter McCool says Celtic will be top on February the 3rd. And Chill Phil says, if we win all our games, we win the league. It's that simple. And it is that simple.
Tony, I just saw a comment, and I forgot I'd said to David Bradley yesterday that I would tell him my team. So you don't need to do it. You keep a wee bit of intrigue for the piece on the site, and you can even just say if you agree with my team. Hopefully one of you at least doesn't. But David, just because I promised you yesterday, my team would be Hart, Juranovic, even though I wouldn't be averse to Ralston starting, Carter Vickers, Starfelt, first choice left back Greg Taylor, Callum McGregor, Rio Hatate, Tom Rogic, and then up front Forrest Abada and Maida. Do you agree with that, guys? Hopefully one of you doesn't to make the article out a bit more
Well, to be fair, I think
I'm bowing my head like that, Sean.
I Ange to take note.
Well, Ange does watch this. I'm sure he does, Sean. I mean, we've said before that he watches it. Just to hear the dulcet tones of Alison McConnell, not for me and you, Sean, to be fair. But there you go. Guys, I hope you have a wonderful Friday, a wonderful weekend. Monday can't come quick enough, to be honest. Alison, thanks as ever for your valuable contribution. And Sean, thanks for yours. Right, Tony, play us out. Give it loudly, big man. Let's do it. Rio, Hatate. Get singing it, guys. You know the drill. All the best. Have a wonderful weekend. Take care.
Cheers, guys.